the party which many thought would rule until the second coming of Christ, is no longer leading South Africa. It's managing its own decline. The question is no longer, can the ANC change? It's what happens to South Africa when the ANC finally collapses under the weight of its own corruption, division, and exhaustion. For 3 decades, the ANC has dominated South Africa's politics. It inherited hopes of millions of South Africans. But now, the same party, the ANC, carries South Africa's frustrations. And with everything that's going on in the party and beyond, it's fair to ask, is the ANC broken beyond repair? Or is it simply paying the price for decades of unchecked power? I've noticed that young people get really frustrated as to why the ANC was given so many opportunities to govern, even though they were not doing very well. And I get where that frustration comes from, because there's never been a time when the ANC was governing really well since 1994. But I think there is a logical explanation behind this rationale of giving the ANC opportunities over and over again. And that explanation mainly comes from the historical context. In 1994, the ANC was more of a default option. And then a few years after 1994, people understood that the freedom fighters needed time to become administrators. So this is what I would call a grace period. Even with all the chaos that was going on then, which a lot of people don't talk about now, with everything that was going on, voters were like, we still need to give these people a chance to govern, to gain experience at governance, to adjust. So the early years were forgiven. The poor governance, slow reform, lack of delivery, all was justified by the idea that these people were still learning to govern. The unfortunate part is that grace period became permanent. And in that process, instead of improving, the ANC built a culture of entitlement. They became so confident that no other party would replace them. So ultimately, they stopped governing with agency because they believed that they could never lose power. People tend to think that this chaos that we're witnessing right now began in this or the previous administration. And that couldn't be further from the truth. After Mandela, power became the ultimate prize in the ANC. Everyone wanted to rule, everyone wanted to lead. And the party was consumed by factionalism. Some people argue that this began pre-liberation. It began way before the ANC got to be the ruling party. This is because there's always been 2 main dominant camps within the ANC. There's the radical wing, which advocates for radical economic transformation. These are the people who advocate for land expropriation without compensation. They want transformation right now. And they're often anti-West rhetoric. And then the other wing is the neoliberal wing. This is the camp which prioritizes market stability, global investment, corporate alliances. And President Ramaphosa is believed to be in this camp. So these factions represent 2 different ideologies. And for the longest time, the ANC has been trying, some people in the ANC have been trying to resolve this, to find a common ground, but it seems as though that has never worked. Instead, what has happened is the ANC has spent a lot of time, more time, fighting each other than governing the country. This internal conflict has always been a characterization of the ANC. So these ideological divisions grew and they led to the manifestation of everything we're seeing right now. The political killings, all this chaos that we're witnessing right now. Hence it all points to ANC comrades. And the honest truth is, ideology is the soul of every party. Hence on the video about My Way Africa, I spent a lot of time questioning Floyd Chivambu's ideology, right? It is the soul of a party, a political party. What is left in the ANC is the liberation rhetoric, but the conviction itself is gone. Right now, they're just trying to survive. The moral authority has been replaced by elite comfort and survival politics. A lot of people are quick to say that ANC leaders are just greedy and that is the main reason behind corruption in the ANC. I think the ANC's corruption didn't begin with greed. It began with impunity. We gave the ANC so many chances. Like I said, there is no time in history between 94 and now where we can confidently say that the ANC served South Africans really well. They deserved another chance. Such time doesn't exist. So we gave them a lot of opportunities they didn't deserve. And this led to a point where they discovered something really dangerous. That is, we can do wrong and still win elections. That realization changed everything. These people still believe that they can never be convicted of any crimes they're committing. They still believe that there's always a way out, right? That we can always let things slide. You and I know that most of these people should be in jail, should be jailed right now. So because of this privilege of grace which has been granted to ANC officials, corruption became structural and not accidental. This looting that we're seeing, crimes, officials being involved in drugs, mismanagement of funds, is all a result of this blind loyalty towards the ANC. Many defended the party out of emotional attachment, which makes sense, by the way, given the historical background. But at what point does it stop? At what point do people realize that this blind loyalty is giving the ANC political protection to loot without consequences? Now, this has even evolved beyond money, beyond funds. South Africa is filled with political violence because of this very same people we're talking about. The allegations which were brought forth by Mkhwanazi mainly points at people in the ANC. You have a minister interfering with political killing investigations. What for? Political assassination, especially in KZN, are a normal thing. You just read in articles that so and so was shot, a councillor was shot, and then that's it. They don't even find need to give context anymore. They just leave it at that. Even local politics are now a dangerous, life-threatening business. That's how rotten this country has become under the leadership of the ANC. So this is not only happening higher up. The rot has spilled into the nation's bloodstreams. ANC supporters refuse to see failure as betrayal for a very long time. But today, this myth is collapsing. That's why we're now in the government of national unity. The younger generation doesn't remember apartheid. They remember load shedding, corruption, and unemployment. The ANC struggle, which they always throw at us whenever we bring up these conversations, means very little when young people are being exposed to drugs and not being given education and employment. So this generational shift may be the single biggest threat to the ANC survival. Young people are now seeing the ANC for what it is. South Africa's political landscape has become less about handing out t-shirts and singing struggle songs and more about action right now. With this trust eroded, ANC seems to be on panic mode. So you have people like Fikile Mbalula trying to fix the party, and then on the other hand you have people who are looting what is left because they can see that this party is dying. Even the party itself is in debt. So with all this panic, it's kind of hard to tell whether the ANC is now being consumed by incompetence or it's just deliberately trying to extract the last benefits before its inevitable collapse. They're now messing up because they're on survival mode. The honest truth is, the future of South Africa is beyond the ANC. And I'm glad that most people are noticing that now. This is not just my perspective. We saw it in the previous elections. So South Africa has entered the new chapter, this coalition era, which is unstable but necessary. At least we are moving towards a system which is built by accountability and not nostalgia. And yes, liberation built South Africa's politics, but accountability politics will decide if it survives. So yes, the ANC is broken beyond repair. They should just close shop. And the irony is, it wasn't destroyed by its enemies. It destroyed itself from within. And for those who have attached South Africa's survival to that of the ANC, should know that the death of the ANC is not the end of South Africa's story. If anything, it's the beginning of the nation's political awakening. Come closer. People who have a goal. We're trying to get to 1K subscriptions before the end of this year. So if you haven't subscribed, please make sure that you do so and leave a like and a comment. Apparently it helps with the algorithm, but I enjoy seeing y'all's perspectives and engaging with you guys in the comment section. And yeah, see you on the next one.